Okay. Call this meeting to order, and at this time, please stand for the invocation by Mr. Garber, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, I'd like to come before you this evening and just pray for Corinth. I want to pray for its staff and our citizens. Lord, I pray that you guide our city and its leaders and bless our community with unity and excellence. And Lord, more than anything, would like to thank you for the provision of grace and forgiveness of our sins through your Son, Jesus. In his name, amen.
Raise the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. Tonight we have a couple proclamations. The first one is going to be presented by Chief Gardner to recognize Chris Lee, who provided valuable assistance to the Corinth first responders during the February ice storm. So, Mr. Chief Gardner.
Yes, sir. Introducing to Mr. Mayor and Council, Mr. Chris Lee. And what we wanted to recognize Mr. Lee for, you will recall, all of us will remember, right at the end of January, we had a heck of an ice storm that lasted for multiple days. We had all kinds of problems on the interstate, the service roads of the interstate, trying to get these messes untangled. There were no tow trucks available. They were all tied up. They were busy. Mr. Lee brought his truck out there, and for a period, intermittently days and nights, for 3 days, was up there. Our folks are aware of him moving at least 20 vehicles. He probably moved more than that. And not only was he moving them with his truck, towing them, there were folks that just didn't either know how or were too scared to try and drive. He would get into their vehicle and drive them away from the danger. I have no doubt whatsoever that Mr. Lee saved certainly some people, including probably some of our first responders and certainly some of our citizens, from serious injury or worse than that. By putting in his time, nobody called him. He volunteered to come out there and do these things for us. And what we've indicated in his Certificate of Appreciation, Mr. Mayor, Certificate of Appreciation 2023 presented to Chris Lee in appreciation of your assistance in helping first responders and stranded motorists during the icy conditions on the roadways. Presented the 6th day of April 2023. And we'd like to give this to you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you very much.
And if you guys would like to have your picture taken with Mr. Lee, we can put that on the Facebooks and get some attention for his good work. Please. Thank you, Mayor.
The next proclamation we have is for Mental Health Month in the City of Corinth 2023. Addressing the complex mental health needs of children, youth, and families today is a fundamental to the future of the City of Corinth. And the citizens of the City of Corinth value their overall health and that of their families and fellow citizens, and are proud to support observances such as Mental Health Month and Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. And in 5 adults has a diagnosable mental health condition, and only half of Denton County parents are not familiar with mental health services in this community. and the need for comprehensive, coordinated mental health services for individuals and families places upon our community is a critical responsibility. And there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect their overall health and well-being. And each citizen, local business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, and faith-based organization shares the burden of mental health concerns and has a responsibility to promote mental health wellness, recovery, and support prevention efforts. And the Denton County Behavioral Health Leadership Team, Denton County MHMR Center, United Way of Denton County, and the Wellness Alliance for Total Children's Health of Denton County, led by Cook's Children's, through their unique partnership and prevention-basis approaches to serving children and adolescents, are effectively in addressing the mental health needs of the children, youth, and families in our community. And it is appropriate that a month should be set apart each year for the directions of our thoughts towards mental health education and support of treatment and recovery. And it is appropriate that a day should be set apart each year for the directions of our thoughts towards our children's mental health and well-being. And therefore be it resolved that I, Bill Heidemann, Mayor of the City of Corinth, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Month and May 10th, 2023 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, and I call upon our citizens and all agencies and organizations interested in meeting each person's mental health needs to unite this month in the observance of such exercises as will commit to people of Corinth to increase awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people, mental health conditions. Signed the 6th day of April 2023. And I believe we have, is it two gentlemen, or two people here? Is it Carol Simmons? And excuse me. I guess. This one?
So you read number 3, not number 2.
Oh, okay. So it's Lindsay Schaefer and Connections Wealth Group and Courtney Jamie, NCTC. So you have the
Mayor, council people, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here in support of the mental health of our community. Mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being. 1 in 5 adults will experience a mental illness in a given year. This is 167,242 Denton County residents. 1 in 5 adolescents have or will have a serious mental health and illness, but there is hope. These conditions are treatable, and we appreciate the City of Corinth for helping us increase awareness of mental health conditions and resources in our community as a part of Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
Okay, would the council please come down and get your picture taken?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay, our third proclamation tonight is supporting Denton County Mental Health Month. Proclamation supporting Child Abuse Prevention Month. There were proclamation Child Abuse Prevention Month 2023. There were 589 children affected by abuse and neglect served by CASA of Denton County in 2022. And more than 240 volunteers from Denton County work with organizations annually by giving their time to ensure safety for our community children, and our youngest citizens need and deserve to be surrounded by love and positive relationships while being given guidance and protection. Now, therefore, in honor of all children in Denton County, I, Bill Heidemann, Mayor of the City of Corinth, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Corinth, Texas, and commend the work of CASA for Denton County volunteers in advocating for children during this difficult time in their lives. In witness whereof, I have hereunto sent my hand and caused the official seal to be affixed to this, the 6th day of April 2023. And I believe we have, is it Carol Simons? And she's from, and Jamie Blankto, and they're from CASA of Denton County. Can you have speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and thank you to the citizens of Corinth. As our proclamation indicated, we were able to serve 589 children in Denton County who were experiencing abuse and neglect right here in our community. Thanks to the community volunteers who go into court and provide voice for these children. Last year, we had 226 community members from all walks of life, all members of the business community, retired teachers, folks that stay at home with their families who step up to serve our children in court. And as of today, right before this meeting began, we currently have 38 new children, part of our caseload, who need volunteers. So one of the reasons that we are so thankful that the City of Corinth was willing to recognize Child Abuse Prevention Month and the work of CASA of Denton County is to encourage your citizens to join us in the fight against child abuse. We encourage folks to participate in one of our info sessions and learn more about our programming and how they can participate, either as a volunteer, as one of your council members is currently doing, or in the variety of other ways that they can support the children of this community. So we're very grateful for your support.
Okay. Council, come down. We'll get your picture taken again.
It's been a long time. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Alrighty, 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Next item is citizens' comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments about any of the council agenda items are appreciated by the council and may be taken into consideration at this time or during that agenda item. Council is prohibited from acting on or discussing items brought before them at this time. Are there any citizen comments? No? Okay. Then I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mayor, make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 7, public hearing. Conduct a public hearing and act on a request by the applicant, Holmeyer Engineering, Incorporated, to amend the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the City of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code of the city, from MX-C to MX Use Commercial to a planned development with a base zoning district of MXC Mixed Use Commercial, to accommodate a proposed expansion of the Destiny RV Resort, an approximate 18.96 acres located at 7100 South I-35E, case number ZAPD 22-005-Destiny RV. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mayor, as you just described, this is a zoning change request, and Director of Development Services, John Webb, will present this information tonight, and staff will answer any questions that we can.
Get the IT department to put up our PowerPoint. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, we had a workshop meeting with the applicant about 3 weeks ago, so I'm going to move through these items fairly quickly, but because it's a public hearing, just want to make sure that everybody in the audience knows where we are tonight. So you have before you a plan development request for the Destiny RV Park. It's it's 3 parcels, approximately about 19 acres. There are 176 RV sites on the property with the office building, recreation, swimming pool, laundry facilities, and the car wash. It is a non-conforming use. It was developed in 1967 as a KOA campground, and some of the surrounding uses include the single-family neighborhood to the west, the single-family neighborhood to the south, a multifamily to the west, and the auto dealership to the north. Okay. So the proposal is to create a PD district that would then remove it from being a non-conforming use as a permitted use, and also allow for the expansion of 52 RV sites. Without this zoning change, they would not be able to expand the RV park because as a non-conforming status, you're not allowed to expand. Something that came out of the council work session on the 16th was allowance for units that would not have to have the longer stay requirement. So since that meeting on the 16th, they did add a condition that they would reserve at least 5 spaces for daily, weekly use. That was a condition that was added by the applicant. The development would include the removal of the car wash. They are now adding, or have from the Planning Zoning Commission meeting, established a 24-month maximum length of stay. They'll be doing some site civil improvements within the site, and again, the applicant's presentation will go into more detail about that. They will include sidewalks on I-35 and Tower Ridge Road. The area for expansion, as you know, is currently the vacant area along the the east side of the property, along I-35. That's where the 2 parcels are today, and the car wash. Some of the darker areas that you see on the plan, those include some pavement enhancements to improve the life safety, to give a minimum of a 20-foot fire lane throughout the property, and to be in addition to adding fire hydrants. They would be putting a new emergency access, a second point of access out onto Tower Ridge, and that would be emergency access only. Zoning on the site is mixed commercial. Again, the RV park is not a permitted use in the MXC district. Previously, we'll talk about what happened in the past. There was an opportunity to get a specific use permit, but that was removed later in a zoning ordinance amendment. The future land use category is office employment. I'm not going to go through these in all detail. I think the applicant will cover a lot of these. But they are doing some landscaping. They do want some exemptions from landscaping on Tower Ridge Drive. There's just not the room for additional landscaping between the back of the curb and the fence on Tower Ridge. Removing the provisions for some concrete curb protection requirements on landscape ordinance. They are asking that the RV stalls be exempt from concrete or asphalt surface, which is pretty typical to have the gravel surface for RV stalls, so that's really not an unusual deviation. We require 2 spaces per RV stall. They're asking for 1 space, and looking at a lot of the standards, that seems to be fairly typical as well. They are asking for a slightly larger monument sign on I-35 from an 8 feet high to 11 feet, and exempting from the framing of the sign. They're also exempting the site from erecting a 6-foot-high masonry wall along that common boundary with the southern adjacent single-family property. As was explained, I think, in the staff report and probably in the workshop briefing, the existing fence out there today is actually on the homeowner's property. I think the belief was that if they tried to put up a new wall or another fencing, it'd probably do more damage to the existing trees that are on the site. A lot of the conversation coming out of the Planning Zoning Commission was the length of stay. They agreed to a maximum of 24 months. The employees would be exempted from that. And those that have been on the park on or before June 30th, I believe that was the date the property was acquired by the new owner, those that have been in the park before that date would be exempted. But those who would begin their stay on or after June July 1st, 2021 would be subject to the new maximum stay. And the owner will provide an operating role, a yearly role reporting on the attendance in the park. There are some permitted accessory buildings. They will be allowed to stay. As you've been through the park, you've seen some decks and structures that were put in the older part of the park. Those would be allowed to stay. They would be allowed to be repaired. But should they be damaged or removed, they could not put up a new one. You are also allowed to have a temporary vehicle tent. So no new storage or no new permanent structures in the new part of the park except for the shade structures. The applicant, it's been over about a year, conducted a neighborhood meeting. Some neighbors attended and did not seem to have any opposition at that time. The comprehensive plan designates this area as office employment, as I previously mentioned. Those uses in the comprehensive plan include corporate flex office campuses on the larger parcels in the city, garden-style offices on smaller parcels. As of to date, we've received one letter in support and one letter in opposition from those living within 200 feet. As we've noted in the staff report that was in the work session and is in your staff report, there was, under the previous ownership, an application for a specific use permit to expand the site. Not quite as many RV spaces. They were generally bringing in additional RV spaces in the northeast part of the site. The car wash was to remain. But in November of that year, the City Council did vote to deny the application, citing that it was not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. You do have a recommendation for approval as submitted by the Planning and Zoning Commission from their meeting on the 27th. And as I mentioned, you did have a workshop meeting 3 weeks ago, and that's after that where they added the minimum of 5 spaces for daily and weekly use. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. I know the applicant's here, and they have also a very detailed presentation. You might be able to have many of your questions answered by the applicant. But if Michelle and I can answer anything, we would be glad to do that.
Is there any questions from council?
Thank you. If IT could bring up the applicant's presentation, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. We appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. Thanks to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The city staff has worked with us, and we also thank you for the workshop that you allowed us to attend and visit with you informally last month. We feel like the proposal that we have before you is a good use of the property to expand. The property has been in existence, since Mr. Webb said, since 1967 without any restrictions, and going through the review process with the city staff. DRC, we've made a number of improvements, whether it's life safety or visual attractiveness. It certainly is an improvement over what you see. As Mr. Webb pointed out, it's close to 19 acres, and we're proposing the addition of 52 RV spots. We will be removing the car wash. The pole sign is already gone. There will be some detention area, as well as a number of life safety improvements that Mr. Webb pointed out earlier. This is an illustration of the property and some of the key elements that we are proposing. We have a timeline of when the zoning was initiated, all of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, City Council, and after our last workshop, the applicant has agreed to provide for a minimum of 5 spaces for daily, weekly occupancy, not to exceed 30 days. And then, Councilman Garber, one of the items that you had requested was, some type of study as to what the landscaping might look like along I-35 and how it visually might be screened. So the concept before you is the landscape plan that is a part of the Planned Development District and the detailed regulations for the ordinance before you. There are a number of trees, large trees, shade trees, a number of ornamental trees, And you can see they are anywhere in mature height from 40 to 80, 50 to 60, 30 to 35. Some of those smaller trees, such as a crepe myrtle redbud and the Palatka holly are smaller, obviously. And then to note in that additional, the landscape plans, those trees are a minimum of 8 to 11 feet tall for the smaller ornamental trees, and then the larger shade trees at a minimum at planting, they are to be 12 to 14 feet in height. So in the very beginning, trees start out smaller and they obviously grow, but there will be a large landscape screen along I-35. I know that Mr. Webb went through a number of the required additions that DRC recommended. My applicant has agreed to all of those. I won't go through each one of those. I think a lot of you are very familiar with the case and all of the additions. We have worked with staff on an appropriate definition for RV park, as well as what an RV is defined as. We worked hard with staff and mostly the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the lengths of stay, and then, as I said earlier, a result of the workshop was the provision for some day and weekly rentals in the new expansion area. We have reviewed the comprehensive plan and a couple of the areas for the intended outcomes in land use and development strategies, and pulled out a few areas where we feel like the comprehensive plan is a match and an appropriate use for the proposed expansion before you. And once again, some notable items. It has been in operation for many years. We'd like to be able to improve it so that it is more of an amenity. It looks a lot nicer. I know my client, their residents, they are all very proud of the property and would love to see some additions made to the property. Going back to the comprehensive plan, an RV park is a form of lodging, and it also meets the development strategy and design priorities. We have worked hard to add amenities that will make it a top-notch RV community, and anything that has been asked of my applicant, any type of operating data, information, site visits. We've provided videos of the fence along the southern property boundary. Whatever has been asked, we've done everything that we can to be able to help share the information and understand the case that's before you. The surrounding property owners, which is typically a tough thing if someone is really opposed to something, they've been very quiet. And if anyone has called with a complaint about a tree limb that might have fallen on their fence or some other type of small thing, we jump on that right away as soon as they call the park. The park has always been very proactive in taking any type of complaint or inquiries from the neighbors. And as I said earlier, we had no restrictions since the property developed early on in the late 60s, and we are agreeing to a number of operating requirements and restrictions. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended the item for approval. I have already pointed out the new addition of the 5 spaces for weekly and daily rental, and we are requesting approval of the PD application. Please, thank you. We also have our applicant here this evening with Destiny RV, as well as the civil engineer on the property, Stephen Homeyer, if you have any specific site questions for him. Thank you.
Is there any questions from council? None? Okay. Then we have to go into a public hearing, so at this point, I will open for a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Okay. close the public hearing. At this time, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a motion for denial.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, quick discussion. So one of the challenges that after the workshop session that we had that I don't think I was ultimately able to be comfortable with was moving something from the situation that the RV park is in now to actually zoning the property to this kind of quasi long-term space rental model. And the challenge is because in a lot of discussion with our city attorney and apparently even a few more discussions on top of the executive session, there was just no way, there was no idea that we could come up with legally to ensure that the zoning rights and where that puts the city as far as potentially evicting residents if the regulations that you've agreed to, and we appreciate that, aren't followed. And so if you were to sell a property or to retire one day or something were to happen, that ultimately puts the city in an incredibly weird position to have to enforce these regulations. And much to some dismay, with as many ideas that were thought up, and much of which I thought might be somewhat easy, there are limitations to what cities can do through the zoning process. And it's almost like an all or nothing. So you kind of got to get it outlined up front, and you hope that lasts for the rest of the life of the property. And there was just not a way to do that to satisfy me.
I just want to, I'm opposed to the zoning change, and as a developer, I think it's fair that because I think you've been very responsible through this process, worked very hard, and so I want you to know why. I think that's only fair to you. As I understand, part of the staff's rationale for recommending approval is that market conditions don't support another use on that property right now. And I think that may be true, but before I make this the right to this use permanent, which is what this zoning change would do, I want to see what happens with 35 and see if market conditions, after it's completed, make another use, which would benefit you by a return on investment by selling the property to someone who would make a different use of it, whether or not that's possible. And so before I would vote yes to a permanent zoning change, that's what I'd want to see, 35 completed, and see what the market would do if we're in response for that particular piece of property. You're obviously a very responsible operator. I'm sure that'll continue. And there's nothing about how you've gone through this process that doesn't represent that you're here in good faith. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. And I talked to the city attorney at length to try to come up with some solution that would allow for some kind of time restriction within a zoning change. And I was not satisfied that anything we would do in that regard would be legal and enforceable. And I share Mr. Garber's concerns about you trying to limit permanent residents, but I think that's an enforcement nightmare for the city, and I don't really want to be put the city in that situation. So those are my thoughts. I appreciate your consideration throughout this process and your efforts to put together a good product.
Any other comments? If not, cast your vote.
Yes, it's to deny, correct?
Yep. Okay, it's 4-1. It passes. Okay. Yep. Business agenda. Item number 8, consider approval of change order number 1 to DDM Construction for the Agora TOD Street project in the amount of $247,937.76 for a total project award of $9,981,710.76 and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a change order. This is the street component of the Agora Commons project. We're asking for a change order of $247,937.76. And Glenn Barker, our Director of Public Works, can address this a little bit more detail.
Mayor, Council. So this is for the TOD Streets, which is right next to Agora. That's Main Street, Agora Way, and North Corinth Street. I'll give you a quick update on the project. April 17th, they'll start pouring Main Street. The 10th, they'll start doing the lane closures right out front here. And drainage work is almost done, and the roundabout will be done in about June. The change orders that they're requesting is going to be for drainage adjustments due to the road realignment, operational conflicts due to Agora, and the streets working together, conflicts in water line and drainage lines. The water lines were so old we didn't know what level they were at, so they actually interfere with the storm. We added additional water valves, and Encore is asking for electrical changes. So those are those. We've actually added 2 optional kind of change orders not required. $45,000 for a scheduling incentive. Right now, their current bid has them closing North Corinth Street for 6 to 9 months, and that's going to affect Pinell Square and NCTC. So what we did, we put in a scheduling incentive for them to complete it at 45 days, and every day after that, they lose $3,000 off that $45,000. We also added in a contingency for the city manager to approve future change orders that are in conflict and stuff. Any questions?
So will the road right in front of NCTC and Pinell, that will be totally closed down for 45 days?
If we do the incentive, yes. If we don't, it'll be 6 to 9 months. It's just more efficient for them to have everybody come and do everything all at once. So that's how they bid it, is so that the dirt work guy does all the dirt work, the concrete guy comes in and do all the concrete, and that'd be 6 to 9 months if we don't do the incentive. 45 days if we do.
So they're penalized $3,000 a day for every day over 45?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But yes, it would be a complete. I think what you're asking is it's complete closure for that 45 days. So yes. We'll have to have detours up.
Correct.
For folks to get to the business.
Businesses there will be able to get to their business some way?
Yes, they'll go through Shady Shores.
It's just so yeah, they can still get there. I'm sorry. It's just we felt the $45,000 incentive, the 45 days, but we were really concerned about the long-term closure for I think the reasons you're suggesting. Yeah.
Any other question? Okay, then I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 to DDM Construction for the Agora TOD Streets project in the amount of $247,937.76 for the total project award of $7,981,710.76 and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Okay, item number 9. Consider a resolution adopting the Denton County hazard mitigation plan and authorize the mayor to execute any necessary documents. Mr. Campbell.
We're going to let Glenn Barker address this one and the next 2 as well. So.
This is the hazardous mitigation plan. It was an opportunity to work with Denton County and surrounding cities to create a plan that meets the Texas Division on Emergency Management regulations, complies with the final rule for hazard mitigation, and it complies with FEMA grants. So we have 21 action items. We've added 21 action items in this plan, anywhere from emergency operations centers and critical facilities, natural disasters, earthquakes to tornadoes, building code, flood zones, drainage, asset infrastructure assessments. All of these items we added in there. If FEMA has grant funding for these items, we're able to claim them because they're in this project. So this resolution will pass. It actually allows Denton County to pass the whole thing. So, any questions?
Is there any question from council? Okay, then I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution for the Denton County Hazard Mitigation Plan and authorize the mayor to execute any necessary documents.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 10, consider approval of the liquid waste ordinance to ensure the city of Corinth meet the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the TCEQ. Mr. Campbell.
Mayor, I think the next two items are just about compliance issues with TCEQ that Public Works Director Lynn Barker will address.
Now we're getting into the fun stuff. TCEQ requires the cities to be compliant with Clean Water Act. We're also working on a CMOM program internally. We're not required to do one, but all of these regulations will go into the CMOM, which is the maintenance and management of the sewer system. Regulation compliance, this ordinance governs everything you put down the drain, promotes proper disposal and transportation of liquid waste, grease, hazardous household materials. The city of Corinth already monitors and follows TCEQ rules and regulations, but this ordinance gives us a mechanism to enforce it. Any questions?
Are there any questions from council?
I do. So you say we already monitor it.
Yes.
So if you find a problem, you just tell the business owner, but we don't have any.
Correct.
We cannot enforce them to do something.
Correct. And the city of Denton and Upper Trinity are required that everybody within their systems has a way to enforce it.
And if we don't meet their qualifying standards, what can they do to us?
They did not talk about what they could do to us, but I'm sure there's going to be some type of enforcement penalties.
Okay.
Do we have a lot of businesses that'll be affected?
No, I don't think we'll have many.
But, okay.
Yeah, most of them already follow Cleve, John's group. They actually manage that, and they have a contractor that comes out and inspects, and they don't have any issues.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-04-06-14 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote.
I vote yes. My voting is not open.
There it goes. It's unanimous. Okay, item number 11, consider approval of the sewer indirect discharge ordinance to ensure the city of Corinth meets the State Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. Mr. Campbell.
Mayor, I think this is very similar to the previous item. We've just moved on from liquid waste to indirect discharge. So, Glenn?
So once again, TCEQ requires all the cities to comply with this rule and regulation for the local limits down at the bottom. That comes directly from TCEQ. The city of Denton and Upper Trinity are requiring us to add this to our enforcement policies. So same process on this one.
How's that measured?
you take a sample to the lab.
Who does that?
The city of Denton actually does it.
Oh, they'll do it?
Yes, so they do it at all our metering points.
And how often do they do it? Just out of curiosity. Quarterly. Okay.
This is just businesses, but not, well, I mean, how do you monitor residential?
So everything is,
It's all in one time.
yeah, so it's one big pile. The thought process here is that it's probably going to be a business, so then they follow the trail back and which business they're heading to. So they'll do a bunch of sampling throughout all the manholes to get back.
So once they get abnormal readings or readings that exceed these, then they start
Yep,
drilling down deeper.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other question? Okay, entertain a motion on that item.
Move to approve the sewer indirect discharge ordinance as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Council comment and future agenda items. The purpose of this section is to allow each council member the opportunity to provide general updates and or comments to fellow council members, the public, and or staff on any issues or future events. Also, in accordance with Section 30.085 of the Code of Ordinances, at this time, any council member may direct that an item be added as a business item to any future agenda. Mr. Burke.
Nothing, Mayor.
Mr. Garber.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Holsworth.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Mrs. Henderson.
Well, I have enough for everybody then. A couple of years ago, we talked about this when Mr. Hart was still here, and I was talking to Mr. Campbell about it. I'd like to put on the agenda to discuss the night that council meets, maybe moving that. And also, if we have a holiday on a Friday, like tomorrow, maybe look at moving the council. That way none of the staff has to be on Thursday night when we know they really want to go to their families because it's a weekend, a holiday weekend. I hope everyone got the meal train I sent out for Lana. If you, and I'm sorry to say this in front of you, but if you would, please respond to that. And also, the mayor's prayer breakfast is May 9th. I know Scott sent something out. We need to get our list put together. So if you're going to be able to attend, please let Mr. Campbell know.
Mrs. Pickens.
Yep, just want to wish everybody a happy Easter this weekend.
Mr. Campbell.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, then we're going into executive session, and we're going to be on section 551.074. So we're in executive session.
Time, Mayor.